Lovable, Bolt, Replit, and Base 44 are all going to go head to head in this video in what I'm calling the vibe coding wars, where we are going to build the exact same app with these 4 different tools and ranking them on who does the best. We are going to be using 5 different categories for this challenge. The first is UI and design. The second is logic and functionality. The third is backend and database setup. The fourth is debugging. And the fifth is ease of use. We are going to be ranking each one of these apps from a scale of 1 to 10 to see once and for all who is the best at building AI apps. And make sure to stay till the end because the last tool is by far the best one. Okay, so we have our prompt here. Essentially what we're going to be building is a client management dashboard for a digital agency. So this is something that we actually have built ourselves. And so I'm curious to see how well each one of these tools have done. I've also included a design reference from a design I've seen on Twitter by one of my friends. So we're basically going to see and compare each tool using the exact same prompt, which does better. Okay, so the first tool we have on this list is Bolt.new. Now Bolt is one of the earlier vibe coding tools. And so I'm curious to see how it's came along. They've introduced Bolt 2.0. It looks like it's using Sonnet. We could also use Opus. So why don't we go and use Opus because we want to make sure that we're using the same model for each of them. And we will go and we'll click build now. So it looks like that Bolt has run into an issue. I'm not really sure why. Let's click retry here. Not a great start for Bolt. Okay, looking back here at Bolt, you can see it's taking a very long time, I have to say. It's been doing this for probably about 10-ish minutes now, which is a bit slower than what I'm used to. So we'll give it a few more minutes and see what it's able to cook up. Okay, so it looks like we have our first version here with Bolt. Took about 10-15 minutes, so not too bad because we are using the latest model. So let's give this a shot. So it seems like we have the code here, the view, the database here, authentication, server functions. Let's take a look at the design here. I gotta say, this is not good. This is not very good. Pretty basic. What I do not mind is that they don't have data in here by itself. So they're relying on actual user data to fill it up. So let's go ahead and create a project here. Which I can't create a client, but whatever, click here. Okay, so here we go. Created a project. So again, pretty basic here when it comes to the project. Design-wise, looks pretty basic as well. So I was expecting a little bit more, but fair enough. Let's go and create a new project as well. Okay, cool. So I wonder if I can go back in here and let's say I want to edit. Yep, seems to be able to do that. So that's pretty cool. We'll go over to the settings here, light and dark mode, and export the CSV as well. Let's see if this will let me. Data looks correct as well, so that's great. Pretty straightforward. Did take a little bit longer, which is not ideal. Now let's take a look at the backend for Bolt to see how this data is actually being stored. So if I go out of this here, I'm going to go to our database here, which seems like it's automatically connected and it was automatically created. And so as far as the backend goes, it's basically as seamless as it gets. And you can see that I can measure everything. You can see the logs, security, audit, giving me some issues that I can fix, which is great. Yeah, overall, pretty solid. It doesn't seem like there's a way to view, oh, here we go. So we have analytics, we have databases, domains, general hosting. So pretty similar stuff all around. Okay, let's take a look at the timeline here that we built. So yeah, this is a little bit more what I was kind of thinking, but still not a Gantt chart necessarily, but it seems like we're able to add milestones and such. Okay, cool. Yeah, so a little bit more functionality off the bat here. So looking at Bolt here, I would give it the same, a 6.5 out of 10 on the design scale. As far as logic and functionality, nothing inherently wrong. So I give this a solid 7 out of 10. Did everything pretty straightforward. As far as the backend and database, did everything pretty natively. I like the UI of it as well. And so I'll give this an 8 out of 10. As far as the ease of use of the platform, I would say it's overall pretty solid. I would also give this a 7.5 out of 10. There's some things that could be slightly improved with probably the speed most of all. It is definitely one of the slower of the tools, but overall felt pretty solid to me. Moving on to our next tool on this list, we have Base 44, which is a bit of a underdog in the space, and so I'm curious to see how it's doing. We've made sure to set it to Opus 4.5 as well, and we're running the same prompt. Let's give it a go. And you can see that they all kind of have very similar UIs. From that perspective, pretty similar. I would say that I have my own kind of favorite from that perspective, but they're all very similar. Okay, so after a few minutes, we have the base 44 preview. Let's take a look here, see what we're working with. So seems like this is, okay, so this is our database, it seems, which is, this is a bit confusing to switch between dashboard and preview. Dashboard doesn't seem like the best use, but okay, so here is our app with base 44. Now it looks like it actually was able to build Google Auth in it, which is actually quite cool. But for the sake of this, let's see if we can just use some random email here to test this. Okay, it's going to get me to do a code. So let me go ahead and actually use my real email. I'll be back once I'm logged in. Okay, so I was able to verify my email, which was very seamless, by the way. Did not need to actually build that in, it just did it by itself. But we look at the design, I have to say, a little bit underwhelming. Given that we feed it a design reference, it didn't do a great job in the UI. It's a very vibe-coded looking app. We got a projects here. Let's take a look. Looks like we have a projects. We can't click into them. Oh, I guess we can here. I gotta say, it feels very vibe codey looking. Not super big fan of the UI that he created here, but it does seem to be working. Let's go ahead and try creating a new project just to make sure this works. Yeah, I mean, obviously worked, did what we needed it to do. So yeah, I mean, pretty simple. I was able to create a project. I can delete a project, pretty straightforward. If I go to clients here, okay, so pretty basic here. If we actually compare this to the prompt we gave it to, take a look here. What we asked is for authentication, user profile page where they can update, dashboard name, active project, show list of 5 most active projects, which should be the dashboard. Projects, each project should have data, seems pretty reasonable. Clients, and then settings. One of the things is being able to export the projects as CSVs. Let's see if this was able to do this here. And it looks like it was. And if I open this up, yeah, that worked really nicely actually. And it looks like it also included a dark mode, which is very nice. And overall, seems pretty solid. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to make it go a little bit more. So let's say add project timeline here, which I like. I like how it generates a prompt as well. So we'll run this. Let's see how this does. Okay, so we've asked Base to create a timeline. Let's see how it did here. Create a visual timeline for each project. So let's see, as we go into here. So it looks like we do have some kind of timeline. I'm not sure this is what we are really going for, but let's see. Okay, so here you can see it's creating a bunch of milestones. I'm not really sure how we can edit or change the milestones or what even the purpose of this timeline is. So it doesn't seem like the most functional thing I've ever seen. Let's try to give it something with a bit more detail. So allow me to edit the points on the timeline. Okay, so looking at base 44, I've asked it to make the timeline a bit quicker and easier. So let's see what it's done here. Okay, so I can click here. Okay, that seems like it's working. It seems like I can click and uncheck it based on it being done, which is pretty cool. Though I don't know where I got the project start date being November 1st, but is what it is. I wouldn't say that this is really what we had in mind for the timeline. I was thinking more of a like a Gantt chart kind of thing, but I guess it does the job. Again, design here is not the best, but it does seem like the functionality works pretty seamlessly. So it is what it is. And we look at base 44's backend. It looks like if I click dashboard here, I can see our users and our project data. Now again, it's a bit more basic than some of the others, but still does the job. Analytics, which is cool. So overall for base 44, I would say it feels a little bit less developed than some of the other tools. I think it's an earlier tool, but overall, it did a pretty decent job. I'm gonna rate the design here. I'm gonna put this at we'll call it a 6.5 out of 10. It just doesn't really have any real styling to it for the most part. It's very kind of basic looking. Didn't really follow or try to follow the design. At least it doesn't look like it. So I'm gonna give this a 6.5 on design. As far as logic and functionality, it did this quite well. I'm gonna give this a 7 on the backend and database. I liked that it does it for you right here. On security side of things, it seems like it has a similar built-in security check scanner. And so pretty default to all these tools here. I'm going to rate this probably an 8. As far as debugging, I wasn't really able to test this out so much, so maybe in a separate video we will go deeper. And so I'm going to leave this as blank for now because I don't think I have a great gauge on the level of debugging that this can do. And then for ease of use, I think that this tool could use a little bit of work on its own UI UX. And so I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 for this as well. I think overall, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I also don't feel like it's the most enjoyable tool to use. It can feel a bit clunky at first, especially like the landing page a little bit even too, just like a little bit janky looking. So I think it could improve there. So overall, we'll put the score for base 44 on the screen. Okay, moving on to the next tool on this list, we have Replit. Now Replit is a little bit more, I feel like it's a little bit more technical, or at least that's how they position themselves, but we're gonna go ahead and give it a shot. I'm not sure exactly how to set the model here. Not sure if that's even an option. Let's see. Looks like we have some themes we can also pick from. Not the prettiest UI, I'll have to say. A little bit bland, but either way, it looks like it improved the prompt a bit, but for the sake of this, I'm going to retract it and we'll click start chat here as well. So interesting, you can see that right now what Replit's doing is it's first planning it out. So it seems like there's kind of two phases, which is a bit different. At least how they display the UI, it appears a bit different. Okay, so we have on Replit here, it looks like we can basically see the plan here. It's giving us the integrations it's going to use. Looks like it's going to use Replit auth, which I guess is their built-in auth. And let's click build the entire app, and we'll run with the plan that's created here, and let's see what it does. I have to say, just from initial impressions, I'm not a fan of the Replit experience so far. It feels very clunky compared to the other ones, but let's give it a go and see how it does. Now, Replit has been going for about 20 minutes at this point. It's taking quite a while. That's something to note. This isn't the most user-friendly experience so far. I think we may have just finished it. I'm not really sure. We also have the database here. Again, looks a little more basic. It definitely looks developer looking. But let's see what it's created here. So, okay. So it's saying that I can't really preview it here. So in order to actually view it, I need to publish the app, it seems. I'm not really sure here what to do. Okay, here we go. So, get started. I guess we're going to accept this. I'm not really sure what's happening here. So we are in. That was a bit complex, but what I will say is this UI is looking a little bit nicer than the other ones. It's a bit more compact. Though the transitions, some of the hovering could use a little bit of work, but that's pretty minor. But I do think it's trying a bit more to fit the font and some of the styles I gave it. And for reference, the image that I gave it from this tweet here. So I was looking for a very minimal kind of style with some kind of more outlined borders on some stuff, but very compact looking. So that's kind of what I was going for. Neither so far have been able to really achieve that, but let's take a look. So the preview experience with Replit has been quite cumbersome, I have to say. So let's go ahead and create some projects. So we'll go in here, new project. Yikes. I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, so that is not a great start for Replit. Even when I click in here, yeah. It does seem like it's still working, so I can't really tell if it's done or not, to be honest. So let's give this a few more minutes. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna tell it there is an error when creating it looks like there's a queue that's been created, which is actually kind of interesting. And it looks like it's still working. So I may have just tried it too early, which is a bit bizarre of an experience, to be honest, because I'm used to it when it's being previewed, meaning that it's done. So let's come back to this. Okay, so looks like I maxed out the agent already on Replit, which I don't really know how, because I've only done one prompt, but let's take a look here. So hopefully I can actually create a project. Okay, there we go. We'll just create some random stuff here. No client. So a bit basic here. I like that the nav is collapsible. I don't know if I can, how do I actually preview this? Let's see. So pretty basic. If I go to clients, same kind of thing. Dark mode, all the same. Let's see, export. Now let's ask Replit, is it gonna even let me do something else? Not really sure. I guess I can't do that. I guess that's it for Replit. But it does work. And it looks decent, so that will be what it is for Replit. Let's take a look at Replit's backend. Even though I wasn't really able to do much, it does seem like it's created the proper schema for things. But again, not the most pleasant experience. It's very hard to look at, frankly, where I feel like the other tools do a better job making this more displayable, as well as also just easier to like check security parameters and stuff like that. Doesn't seem like they have any inbuilt security thing, or at least not that I'm able to find. I think an overall theme of Replit is it's just really tough to actually navigate, and it seems like you're kind of getting like the worst of both the worlds, which is like it's not as advanced as like a cursor per se, but it's also not as seamless as a Lovable or one of these vibe coding tools that are a little more non-technical focused. Replit did a pretty solid job on the design side of things, and so I'd give this overall probably a 7, maybe 7.5 on design. It's not a huge difference, but you can see it's trying to mimic the screenshot a little bit more, and so I'll give it some kudos for that. On the functionality side and database side, or as far as logic goes, again, pretty straightforward. I would say 7 out of 10 there. Database, I'd give this probably a 6 out of 10. It just feels very confusing. I'm not sure what it's really using, if it's using Replit's database, if it's connected to its own database. I'm not really sure. And also the UI to actually explore the database is not great. So I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. For debugging, we weren't really able to experiment with that, so we'll save that for another video. But as far as ease of use, I gotta say this has been a really horrible experience, a really tough experience to use. I'm gonna have to give this a 3 out of 10. As somebody that's built in a lot of these tools, I'm just surprised by how tough it is to be able to do some of the most kind of mundane things. In fact, I wasn't even able to build because after one prompt, I was basically stopped. Not to mention this also took probably 20-30 minutes to actually just get the initial prompt. So Replit's going to be the lowest ranked here on this list just because it is just a really tough tool to be able to actually use. Now, last on this list, we have Lovable, which I have to say, I think visually speaking, it is definitely the easiest and probably most intuitive product out of the 4 of them. As you can see, I just feel like it's much more readable. I like the energy obviously it has, and just the general UI and UX is super clean. You also have the same kind of thing here. You can basically select themes, chat mode, etc. This feels a lot better and more intuitive overall when I go into this. Similar to Bolt's UI, I would say, which is also pretty solid. But let's give this a go and we'll see what happens. So it seems like Lovable's already using Opus 4.5 in the background here, as well as chat mode. So it doesn't seem like we need to set that. Okay, so we have our Lovable build, which took about 5-ish minutes, which is pretty quick. Let's take a look at what we have here. So we'll go ahead and preview this as well, which is pretty easy. You can see it did come out with a little bit of a nicer design compared to the other ones, I will be honest, but nothing crazy so far. Let's go ahead. I also think the font one matches slightly better what we were going for. So off the bat, I do actually like the slightly more minimal design that Lovable has. It's trying to do something different, but it does still feel pretty vibe code. But there is a little bit more, I feel like, of a polish, even with some of these, I guess, alerts and stuff. I like some of the roundness it gave it. It definitely tried to stylize it a little bit more than some of the other ones. Moving on to the projects. One thing that I like is it's saying to add a client before adding a project, which is a really good kind of insight because it knows that they're tied together. We have our client, and then we can go into the project and select it, giving it a bit more color, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but generally about the same. Yeah, I mean, pretty standard. Looks basically the same as the other ones. I like that it limits some of the icon use. A lot on the other ones, I had like a kind of a janky icon here. I like what it's doing. Interesting how all these look basically the exact same in the settings. But not a huge deal. And let's make sure the export CSV works as well. And it does. Perfect. So Lovable, you can see it actually didn't go ahead and create the cloud for us. And so it gave us the optionality to either use Supabase or to use Lovable Cloud, which is their built-in one. We're going to go ahead and also build in the same visual timeline feature that we did for the base 44 one to see how well it does. We're going to add the same timeline here to see how well it does. Now Replit is kind of out of this fight at this point because, as you can see, I need to pay, looks like $25 a month just to continue building. And I've done one prompt, so I'm not really sure what went wrong here. I think this is just maybe more intensive, but clearly not the most credit efficient thing I've seen. Lovable did a pretty solid job with the design. I like that it has some transitions built in as well. I wouldn't say it was the top design, but I think that it was definitely up there. So I would probably give this a 7 out of 10. I think it's slightly cleaner than some of the other tools. Has a little bit more personality to it, but I think, again, they all didn't do a great job following it, but it is what it is. As far as the logic functionality, I'm going to give this a 7.5. The reason for the slight boost is because it had a little bit more intuition when it came to creating the projects and clients and how those work together. And I thought that was a good little thing that it was able to implement by itself about reminding us to create the clients first. That way we can create projects. As far as the database goes, I would say pretty seamless, similar to Bolt. It's all built in, and so I would give this an 8 out of 10 for that. And for ease of use, I would say I put Lovable the highest for ease of use. I just think that the overall experience is super clean. For me, it just feels really intuitive and everything's just easy to display. They do a really good job with design overall. So I'm going to give Lovable a 9 out of 10 on this one. And so I'm going to give Lovable a 9 out of 10 for ease of use, which I would say is probably the easiest to use across all these platforms. Now, with all that being said, I have to say all these tools for the most part are pretty similar. Now, there's a few different areas where certain tools thrive, but I'm going to do an even deeper dive because I realized as I was going through this that I really need to be able to build a more complex project that I just wasn't able to scope out right now. But what I want to do is I want to do a phase 2 where I really go and build a project deeper rather than more of the high level. But I think the most important takeaway in today's video was that ease of use is the biggest distinguishing factor between all these different tools, because at the end of the day, they're all using the same models to power it. Usually Opus or Claude 4.5 is the best model right now, and they're all using that. And so it really comes down to like how easy is it for somebody to go and use and figure out these tools. Frankly, I think Lovable is the best for this. And that is honestly just my unbiased thoughts, just comparing the different designs and experience. I think Bolt is a close second. I think Replit and Base 44 have a lot of work to do on that component, especially Replit. Like Replit is really caught in this weird spot about being like for technical people, but also kind of positioned as like a no-code tool. And it's kind of serving neither, because I feel like for most of the technical crowd, they're going to go and lean towards a Codex or a Cursor. And for the non-technical crowd, they're going to lean towards more of a Lovable or a Bolt. So they're kind of caught in kind of a weird middle ground. As far as Base 44 goes, I think that they're on the right track. It feels like they're kind of playing catch up just with the overall polish of the product. But I think that, I'm sure all these tools continue to expand and to grow. I want to do a deep dive on the integrations and the back end of all these tools to really get to understand their power. But I hope you kind of enjoyed this like intro comparison. We'll do a deeper dive in a later video, but this will mark it for now. We'll tally up all the leaderboards so you can see the winner of this. Now, on the next video, we will go even deeper on these tools to really figure out which one is the most powerful tool, not just the easiest to use and the most user-friendly. So with all that being said, I will catch you on the next video. I would appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.